What good folks, it's Dark319 and welcome back to another What If, and I believe this is What If Naruto was Sephiroth Reincarnation Part 4, so like, comment, subscribe and share, but besides all that, enjoy the video. Chapter 7 Loyalty Shifts. Sephiroth stared at Haku for a long moment, as she stared back at him, the mask being ripped off by her own hands the moment they were in the Namikaze estates, and the young girl looked at him now with tears overflowing from the eyes. She had not been pleased in hearing Sephiroth's words about how that Hyuga girl had the potential to kill him, and even less pleased with her master encouraging the girl to achieve it. What was he thinking? Why? Said Haku simply. Why what? Said Sephiroth, seeing her face looking more pained. Why did you tell everyone around you that she had the potential to kill you? Why, after making such a statement, do you wish to encourage such a person to reach that potential? Said Haku, seeing him smile gently at her. My words have several purposes, Haku. For one, it will keep Hyuga Hinata from being harassed by her clan, and get them to back off in using the cage bird seal for a time. I also want Hinata to become strong enough to break through her timid shell, and it can only be done by being trained under the tutelage of the Hokage. I have heard from some whispering Jounin that my godmother has already started the training, and I have seen the results of it in the preliminaries, said Sephiroth, seeing Haku's eyes widen. The final blow Hinata hit her cousin Neji with that gave her the win in the match. Senju Tsunade's superhuman strength, said Haku, seeing Sephiroth nod. Yes. Not truly perfected of course, but given the needed time, I have no doubt Hinata will master such a skill in record time, and everything else Tsunade teaches her. She will become a powerful force to be reckoned with, and I will not see it impeded by anyone in this village, said Sephiroth, seeing Haku's eyes become cold and fierce now. All the more reason for me to kill her so she can't kill you, said Haku in a cold voice filled with venom. No. You will not. I forbid it, said Sephiroth, seeing the protest in Haku's eyes. But why? She threatens your life with such potential and needs to be removed before she can achieve it, said Haku, looking him right in the eyes, begging her master to give the order, and every muscle within ready to move to make it happen. All she needed was the command from Sephiroth. Because I don't want Hinata to die. Just as I don't want you to die, Haku. Can I trust you not to usurp my decision? Said Sephiroth, as the swordsman felt Haku latch onto him, and hugging his body tightly. I would never go against your wishes, Sephiroth-sama, said Haku, as she held onto him, breathing in his scent, and rested her head on his shoulder. It still didn't stop her from crying over the matter. I know, Haku. Do not worry. I have no intention of dying anytime soon, said Sephiroth, as he stroked the woman's long hair, and let her cry on his shoulder. I know you won't, because I won't let you, thought Haku, as she wouldn't let anything stop Sephiroth from living, and Kami help anyone that stood in her way. Because Haku was going to obliterate them from this world should they try. Barbecue restaurant several days later. This is troublesome, said Shikamaru, as he saw Choji eating his food happily, and saw Ino was eating a little bit more than usual now that the battle with Sakura in the prelims had knocked some sense into her. The Nara suspected it was also in a literal sense too. Though in reality, Shikamaru wasn't really interested in Ino's revelation that watching her weight, and the latest look in fashion no longer taking priority over shinobi training. It was the prelim match that came last, which had his 200 IQ mind buzzing, and he wasn't the only one either. What do you think Sephiroth meant when he said Hinata had the potential to kill him? You think he meant it? Said Ino, as the statement that was heard by the one-winged angel had been spread throughout the leaf, and many wondered if it was indeed true. Hard to say. When he was just Uzumaki Naruto, the guy was hard to figure out as it was, and now being Namikaze Sephiroth makes things all the more troublesome. I do know that since those words were spoken, the pressure Hinata faces in having the cage bird seal placed on her head by the Hyuga clan has been lifted, and the councils are now helping the Hokage in keeping her as an apprentice, said Shikamaru, as he had spoken to his dad about it, and the Nara clan head had admitted as much in the meeting they had mere minutes after the prelims were over. You think it's what he planned all along? To get people to support Hinata? Said Choji before wolfing down more food. Maybe. Though the look in his eyes when he spoke tells me that Sephiroth believes Hinata does have the ability to kill him in the future, and wants her to have that ability, said Shikamaru, seeing his teammates eyeing him with surprise. I never thought someone as powerful as Sephiroth would be suicidal, said Choji, now frowning at the thought with Ino doing the same. Considering how people treated him here when he was Uzumaki Naruto, I wouldn't be that surprised, and suspect he wants to die at the hands of the only person our age that cared about him. In his mind, to die at the hands of the closest person he could actually call a loved one being a good thing, and would most likely prefer it, said Shikamaru in a depressed voice. Damn, said Choji, as his food no longer appealed to his stomach, and put the chicken in front of him down. Hey! Get out of here. We don't serve students of that monster, said the manager of the restaurant at the Sound Jinan team that entered the establishment. Some things never change, said Shikamaru, seeing the Sound Jinan not budging from their spot while the manager looked ready to pick up a butcher knife and use it. Was this what we ignored until now? Was this what Sephiroth went through when he was Uzumaki Naruto? Said Ino, as she saw the manager's face go red with anger to albino white at the sight of the figure that entered behind his team, and now backing away in fear. Namikaze Sephiroth. My students came here to eat because they are hungry. Surely, you wouldn't be foolish enough to deny them something to eat like you did me years ago, and cause a scene? Said Sephiroth, seeing the manager's body shaking in fear of him and quickly leading the four to a booth while the people around them whispered at the sight. Where is that masked girl that is always next to him? Said Ino, whispering to Shikamaru since he didn't see her around. I don't know. Maybe he's giving her a day off, said Shikamaru, as he could see the four sitting down, and looking at menus. You want to go over and say hi? I mean, we're not enemies right now, said Choji, as he saw Shikamaru run a hand through his hair, and once more thought about it. Later. Let them eat for now. We'll talk to them right before we leave, said Shikamaru, seeing his teammates nodding in agreement while secretly eavesdropping in on their conversation. Now that I'm not in the Chunin exam finals, I've been recalled back to Sound, and have to await further orders, said Kin, sadly knowing that Orochimaru was going to use her for something. Something bad. I know. I've spoken to him about it. I've convinced the leader of Sound to let you stay to help your teammates train and send over our albino friend for the Hokage to look at for possible treatment, said Sephiroth, knowing Team 10 was hearing this, but didn't want them to know about the snake Sanin, and what was going to happen in a month. You think the Hokage can heal him? I doubt she'll want to, considering, said Dosu, as he knew from when Orochimaru spoke of his female former teammate that there was no real love between the two, and that Tsunade would sooner punch the snake Sanin's head clean off his body. Senju Tsunade's oath as a doctor will not let a sick person go untreated if there is still a possible treatment available, and all four of us here have seen our dear friend getting sicker by the day, said Sephiroth, as he saw the trio nod, and had seen the signs of the Kaguya coughing more, with several cases of blood leaving his mouth every time they saw him. When is he going to arrive? Said Zaku curiously. Tomorrow. He'll be staying at the Namikaze Estates for the duration of his stay here in Konoha when not being treated by Tsunade. Hopefully, the Hokage's new apprentice will help find out what's wrong with our friend, and help Tsunade cure him of his disease that much faster, said Sephiroth, seeing the trio nod and went about eating their meal after the one-winged angel used his powers to purify it of any form of unhealthy things possibly put in their meal. Hey, said Shikamaru, as he walked up to them, and saw Sephiroth look at him calmly while his Jinan were on edge. Yes? Said Sephiroth, seeing Team 10 approach them. It's been a while since the academy, said Shikamaru while kicking himself for being so obvious. That it has. I see you three haven't changed much, said Sephiroth, smiling at the leaf Jinan in front of him. Changing is troublesome, said Shikamaru simply. Indeed. How has your team been doing since the preliminaries? Said Sephiroth, as he saw the Nara shrug, and made a wavy hand motion indicating it was so-so. Hayate-sensei gave us a few days off. I've practiced with a few clan jutsu, and I know Choji has been trying to use more of his family's own, said Shikamaru casually before he was hit in the back of the head by Ino. You forgot about me, Baka, said Ino, glaring at her teammate. Oh, and Ino is doing whatever it is Ino does, said Shikamaru, getting another hit on the head for not making her sound important. You're not helping, said Ino, shaking her hand at him. Sephiroth-sensei, we've finished eating, said Dosu, as he saw Sephiroth look at him, and then the plates on the table. Good. Zaku. Dosu. Go train for the exam finals. Kin, I want you to see the Hokage, and inform her of the future patient I need to have examined. If she says no, then please tell my godmother I have no problem paying for her time, and treatment of our dear friend arriving tomorrow, said Sephiroth, as he saw his three students nod, and head out before taking a look at the bill given moments later by the waitress. And don't come back, demon filth, said the waitress before turning to leave his presence quickly. This bill is outrageous. That's 3 times the correct amount of the price for the food here, said Ino, seeing the bill handed to Sephiroth, who merely smiled, and put the bill down, and simply rose from his seat before leaving. You're not going to pay it, are you? Said Shikamaru simply. Would you? Said Sephiroth with a raised eyebrow. No, said Shikamaru. If they start complaining, they can always send me the correct bill for the food, and then I will pay it, said Sephiroth before walking out, and ignored the smug waitress walking over to collect money off the table that wasn't there. That bastard. He didn't pay, said the waitress, as she was going to report him to the manager, and get him in trouble with the Hokage. Kind of hard to pay for a bill that is way beyond the normal price, said Shikamaru, seeing the waitress glaring at him, but it didn't intimidate the Nara one bit, and held his ground. He's a demon. A monster. Things like him pay what we tell them to pay and they have to suck it up like the abominations they are, said the waitress, not wanting to go into the reasons behind the Leaf's actions. Sephiroth thought differently when he decided not to pay for the meals. You can make a case out of it, but I doubt the Hokage will take your side on the matter, and ask Sephiroth to pay for something that was not priced properly, said Shikamaru, as he saw the woman sweat slightly at this, and knew the waitress was blowing smoke about reporting this. This isn't over, said the waitress before storming off. You know what's scary about that statement? She's right, and not for the reason I know she's thinking about, said Shikamaru, seeing his friends nod their heads in agreement. It was not over. Not by a long shot. Namikaze Estates, the moment Sephiroth entered his home, he was tackled by Haku, who had been tied up by a spell that kept her bound until his return, and glared at the one-winged angel for not letting her come with him. If she didn't care so much, Haku would have struck him, and then scolded Sephiroth on the purpose she had in protecting him. Why did you go outside without me? Said Haku, finally seeing the swordsman merely smirked at her. Because you needed to rest and relax. I imagine things were never this tense with you when traveling with Zabuza, said Sephiroth, seeing the woman shake her head no, since it never was this tense for her. Then again, Zabuza never went into one of the 5 major shinobi villages during the Chunin exams, and walked around like nothing could hurt him. I understand, said Haku, as she had been tense since being here, and feared for Master being attacked at any second of the day. Or night for that matter. Kimimaro is coming here tomorrow to receive medical assistance to combat his disease plaguing his body, said Sephiroth, deciding to change the subject. Do you think she can cure him? Said Haku, knowing this disease Kimimaro had was progressing at a dangerous rate. If she can't, then I will with my healing spells. I don't want to give our friend a quick fix simply to have him become Orochimaru's new vessel, said Sephiroth, knowing that was going to happen upon Kimimaro being cured, and the swordsman couldn't let that happen. Root HQ, are your men in position? Said Danzo, as he looked at the Root Onbu captain in front of him kneeling submissively, and nodding his head that the men were. Yes, Danzo-sama. All Root shinobi have taken up key positions around the Namikaze Estates ready to strike on your order, said the Root Onbu captain. Good. Tell them to proceed and attack tonight. If they can't capture the boy, then go for the girl, and bring her to me, said Danzo, as he would have his new weapon one way, or another with the means to overthrow the Hokage. Yes, Danzo-sama, said the Root Onbu captain before vanishing to do his duty. Soon, the one-winged angel of death will be mine to command, to control, and then the elemental countries will fall in line once I unleash my new pet upon it, thought Danzo, as he would relish using his new tool, and become an unstoppable force that no one could oppose. Namikaze Estates that night, Sephiroth knew something was amiss when multiple chakra signatures were detected by himself and Haku soon after before they headed off to sleep. Each signature was mild at best, but such a vast army of them, it was clear their master, whoever it was, preferred to use quantity over quality in terms of strength, and didn't really care that such people were sacrificed. Nodding to Haku to get ready, Sephiroth walked out of his home, Masamune in his hand, and saw the loyal Root Onbu captain with his own sword drawn along with the other shinobi around him. Sephiroth knew there would be no talking like civilized people with this group, as this army was here for the single purpose of defeating, capturing, and or killing him. You're trespassing. Leave or be destroyed, said Sephiroth, deciding to give these fools one small chance to run away. Surrender or be destroyed, said the Root Onbu captain. Shame they had to waste it. I choose neither option. Die, said Sephiroth, as he was soon upon this army, moving through them smoothly, and the swarming army of Root shinobi trying to subdue him. Summoning water out of nowhere from his spell Waterga, the one-winged angel of death covered the area around him with an incredible amount of water, and had nearly drowned the enemies around him in a flash flood. Those closest to him had actually died from such a thing, from so much water in their lungs, while others gagged for air after coughing up the water they had. Above on the Namikaze Estates, Haku saw the quick nod by her master, and instantly went through one-handed hand signs before stomping her foot down hard to activate the 1,000 needles of pain jutsu that struck the Root shinobi below. No surprisingly, some of the Root shinobi didn't go down, as they had more tolerance to such pains, and tried going after Haku instead of the original target upon the remembrance of secondary orders by Danzo. Haku immediately threw wave after wave of senbone needles at the Root shinobi, with her foes slowing or falling down completely before they got within close taijutsu range. She easily knocked several back that got in her way before hitting another, getting within that range with a senbone to his neck that dropped the root shinobi like a bad habit. Sensing someone behind her, Haku spun around, and punched the root shinobi so hard in the face that the man's mask cracked from the force behind it. When the battle was over, Sephiroth was standing among the piles, and chunks of bodies around him with Masamune dripping blood down onto the ground thanks to the power of gravity. Above him, he saw Haku had defeated her own group of root shinobi, and had a live one to interrogate for information. Throwing the man down on the ground before Sephiroth, Haku quickly hit the man with senbone needles so the root shinobi's limbs were immobile, and then walked over to her master's side. Kicking the man over, Sephiroth walked around the man, and saw the root shinobi looking back with a blank look on his face. "You will tell me who sent you. You will tell me your master's name," said Sephiroth simply, but his voice was cold, deadly, and spoke of intense pain beyond measure if he was denied answers. The root shinobi, however, did not speak due to the seal on his tongue, and did not bode well in the presence of the angry figure that was Namikaze Sephiroth. You see, Sephiroth was one of two different types of angry people see in the world, and try to avoid at all costs. The first type of anger is explosive anger, which causes people to lash out at people in brief moments before calming down, and then acting happy once the anger is faded. Then you have the second type of anger, which is suppressed kind, someone buries down deep inside themselves for days, months, and even years before all that anger comes out in a form that no one wants to be in the path of when it comes out. Sephiroth was the latter of the two, and he had plenty of pent-up anger in him regarding Konoha that spanned well over a full decade. In short, the root shinobi was screwed, and it was all Danzo's fault with that seal. Konoha Hospital the next day, Tsunade looked at the figure wearing thick robes to cover his person, no doubt to keep his appearance from people, when he made his way here and saw Sephiroth watching things from the corner of the room. Slowly, the figure removed the robes to reveal himself to be Kaguya Kimimaro, and loyal bodyguard of Orochimaru. Though Sephiroth was going to see, the man's loyalties to the Sannin did not last. A real live Kaguya in the flesh standing before me. If I had made a bet years ago after the clan was wiped out saying none were left with that bloodline, I would have lost, said Tsunade, as she stood with Hinata beside her trying to be professional, but it was hard for the Hyuga to do in the presence of Sephiroth, and yet still kept trying to focus on the task at hand. Sephiroth-sama has told me that your knowledge as a medic may have the power to cure my body, said Kimimaro, seeing the woman nod and turned to Hinata before nodding. Byakugan, said Hinata, as she used her eyes, and saw the internal organs of Kimimaro. What do you see, Hinata? Said Tsunade, as she wanted her apprentice inside on this, and the Byakugan was a great asset in seeing what normally couldn't be seen. It's his lungs. Kimimaro-san's lungs are showing signs of damage with scarring and are being damaged on a microscopic level, said Hinata, as she saw the disease at work, and it was quite the sight to see. Tuberculosis, said Tsunade simply, as she had a list of the symptoms Sephiroth had given about his friend, and seeing where the Kaguya clan came from, it made perfect sense. That disease, it has been the bane of my clan's existence since it was founded. It attacks only the most powerful of the Kaguya, and I just so happened to be that person when I was just a child, said Kimimaro, remembering how his own family feared his potential and locked him away in dark moist cell when he was a child. Can he be cured? Said Sephiroth, seeing Tsunade running a diagnostic jutsu over the Kaguya's chest and do her own assessment of the man. Maybe. In a few months such treatment would be impossible given the current rate of this disease in his body. If we are to have a remote chance of success, I need to start my regime for treatment now, and not a day later, said Tsunade, looking at Sephiroth, seeing him nod. Make the arrangements. I'll also need all your medical notes, procedures, and anything else for treating Kimimaro's disease for Haku to have when we continue his treatment outside of the village after the Chunin exams are over, said Sephiroth, seeing the busty blonde nodding. I'll prepare a room for him. Come, Hinata, said Tsunade, as she saw Hinata looking at Sephiroth for a moment, and then followed out of the room. Seconds later, Haku appeared via ice mirror, and saw Kimimaro move to sit down on a nearby chair. To think, Kaguya Kimimaro of the Kaguya clan, its strongest member to have been produced in ages, could possibly be destroyed by something small, and the naked I could not see. Thank you for convincing Orochimaru-sama into letting me come here, Sephiroth-sama, said Kimimaro, bowing his head slightly in the swordsman's direction. Don't thank me yet, Kimimaro-san. There is a price to be paid for such a treatment, and it may be too steep for you if asked to pay it, said Sephiroth, seeing Kimimaro frown in confusion. What price? Said Kimimaro, seeing Haku looking uneasy since she knew this could blow up in their faces. We wish you to denounce Orochimaru and to no longer serve him, said Sephiroth, seeing Kimimaro's eyes widen and then narrow in anger. How can you ask me that? It is because of Orochimaru-sama that I have a purpose, said Kimimaro, as he saw Sephiroth shake his head, and walk towards him. A purpose that will end the moment you are healed. Orochimaru will make you his new vessel, destroying your soul while his takes over your body, and then in the 3 years' time, he will take a new body without so much as a look back at the one person out of all the elemental countries willing to give up their life for him. The man has no honor. The snake Sanin is a parasite, who feeds off others because he fears death, and the judgment that awaits him on the other side, said Sephiroth, seeing the albino Kaguya growling at him in denial. You lie. It is through this curse seal that a part of me will stay alive with Orochimaru forever, said Kimimaro, as he was moments away from unleashing his fury, and the only thing stopping him was the fact it would ruin Orochimaru's plans. Is that what he told you? Because if it is, then what Orochimaru told you was a lie, and a deceitful one at that, said Sephiroth, seeing Kimimaro's eyes wavering a little under his own stare. He wouldn't. I have proven myself time and time again that my loyalty was his and he promised me, said Kimimaro, seeing Sephiroth's eyes narrow in anger at the albino's words. Not angry over Kimimaro saying the words, but the fact Orochimaru promised that he had claimed the lie was true, and played on the Kaguya's insecurities at the time. It was a promise he couldn't keep. In fact, it was because me, and not Orochimaru, that your body can possibly be cured of its disease. The Sanin you've served for a while now had refused to take you to see Tsunade when she was wandering around the elemental countries because of his pride. He would have sooner bleed your body and loyalty dry, than have her heal you if it wasn't for my way with words, and lying when I explained that he could use you for his new body right away after being cured, said Sephiroth, seeing the man in front of him shaking his head before falling to his knees, whispering that it was all lies. He speaks the truth, Kimimaro-san. Sephiroth-sama would not lie to you like this. That is not his way, said Haku, seeing Kimimaro shaking almost violently now before he just stopped and looked up at the one-winged angel of death with serious deadly eyes. The price you are asking me is indeed steep, said Kimimaro plainly. I know, but the alternative is not something a warrior of your status should have to go through, and in all honesty, Kimimaro-san, you deserve better, said Sephiroth, seeing the albino slowly bow his head until it touched the ground. I renounce my loyalty to Orochimaru. My life is now yours to command, Sephiroth-sama, said Kimimaro, as he looked up at Sephiroth, and saw the command to stand up. You won't regret this, Kimimaro. Haku, I need you to take a look at the library, and look at some medical scrolls to expand your knowledge in healing. I have a feeling we will need all your skills in the future long after Kimimaro is healed, said Sephiroth, seeing the girl nod in understanding. There is something else you need to know about Orochimaru's invasion plans for the Leaf, and it involves the Kazekage of Suna. Or rather, him being the Kazekage of Suna, said Kimimaro, seeing Sephiroth's eyes narrow slightly. Tell me everything. Leave no detail out, said Sephiroth, seeing Kimimaro nod and begin the explanation of the plan to invade Konoha. Chunin exam finals 1 month later, Orochimaru walked up to the Hokage booth under the disguise of the Kazekage, who he was now impersonating to get close to his former teammate, and now the first female Hokage. Things had not gone exactly as planned for his invasion of the Leaf, as he had expected Sasuke to be strong enough to advance this far, and leave him open during the invasion to grab to take back to Sound. Second, Kimimaro's treatments in secret for his lung disease by Tsunade had required the albino stay the whole month, and even then it required that the Kaguya stay until the day of the Chunin exam finals before he was ready to leave for Sound. Another problem was the increase of security around the Leaf after the fool Danzo sent an army of his root agents to subdue Sephiroth and ruthlessly slaughtered by the swordsman. It was unknown if Sephiroth got any information about Danzo from the root shinobi brought before him alive, but the end result brought about increased security, and a tighter leash on all the council members, including the Snake Sanin's secret partner in crime. The stupid old man was too eager to subdue Sephiroth using the tools I gave him from the different experiments carried out in my lab. Now Tsunade has made things even more difficult to get information from my spies and move my forces into position. I'll deal with Danzo soon enough after I crush Tsunade when the invasion is over, thought Orochimaru before putting on the facade of the Kazekage, now greeting the 5th Hokage. Welcome, Kazekage-sama. How was your trip here? Said Tsunade, smiling at the cloth-covered face of the fake Kazekage. It was pleasant. You never truly realize how hot the weather around Suna is until you've been outside the village, said Orochimaru while pretending to be happy in front of his old teammate. Agreed. Though I'm sure you were excited about seeing all 3 of your children in these exams, said Tsunade, seeing the Kazekage nodding in agreement. Yes. My eldest Tamari, my oldest son Kankuro, and youngest son Gara brought me great joy when I was informed by their sensei of their accomplishments. I hope to see all 3 of them advance to Chunin soon and then to Jounin shortly after that, said the fake Kazekage, not knowing that Tsunade had caught on to him since the 5th Hokage knew that the real Kazekage never called Gaara his son. So you are Orochimaru in disguise. Well, it's a good thing I've prepared for this thanks to your former loyal subordinate Kimimaro, and the details behind the invasion, thought Tsunade, as she had recalled Jiraiya back to the Chunin exams after putting in a coded message stating the snake was in the sand, and preparing to strike the tree slug in the oasis. Hopefully, Jiraiya would keep taking down Sephiroth on hold for now, and deal with Orochimaru's invasion. Who is fighting first? Said the Kazekage, as he sat down in his chair, and awaited the matches to start. See for yourself, said Tsunade, as they both saw Sai getting ready to fight Akato Yoroi in his match, and saw the eyes of the fake Kazekage looked instantly bored. I suppose it's only appropriate if not fair the host village gets to have 2 of their shinobi fight first, said Orochimaru, trying to sound like this was fine when in actuality it wasn't. And so the two watched the match with Sai using his ink drawings to battle Yoroi, who was trying to get close enough to drain the pale boy's chakra, but was unable to get close due to the ink drawings that were in the form of fierce flesh-ripping animals that did a good job of imitating their real flesh and blood counterparts that lived in the wild. Needless to say, Sai was the victor of his match, and started things off in a very bloody fashion. The next match came and it was Abumi Zaku vs Sabaku no Kankuro, with the middle child of the Sabaku family forfeiting his match in order to save his puppets for when the invasion started. The next match that soon followed was Nara Shikamaru vs Sabaku no Tamari, with a lazy leaf Shinon preparing to forfeit since he didn't want to face a girl for a second time had Dosu not secretly pushed the boy over the railing into the arena on the orders of Sephiroth, with the one-winged angel knowing the Nara would sooner forfeit his match than fight the Suna girl. This was soon followed by Tamari getting impatient at the Nara's lazy behavior and attacking the boy before the proctor could announce the start of the match. Given Shikamaru's luck with women, namely his own mother, and Ino on his team, he didn't really stand much of a chance against Tamari. The blonde pig-tailed woman was almost as smart as him, more powerful than he was, and there was no real way for him to manipulate his shadow possession jutsu to take the eldest of the Kazekage's children down. What was even more scary was Shikamaru suspected it was the youngest of the 3 siblings, who was the strongest of them, and the Nara didn't want to face him during the Chunin exam finals. So it wasn't a really big surprise that Tamari not only dominated the match from the start, but that Shikamaru forfeited, and just before woman brought down her iron fan on top of his head that stopped mere inches from it. Wimp, said Tamari before walking away and hearing the crowd booing at the outcome of the fight so far. The Leaf had won against one of its own via kill, Sound won against Suna via forfeit, and now Suna won against the Leaf in the same manner. Next came Kinuta Dosu, who was facing Sabaku no Gaara, but the Sound Jinan had been secretly ordered by Sephiroth not to fight the demon vessel, and Dosu forfeited his own match. Of course, it made the people watching get upset, but those that knew of Gaara's reputation understood why Dosu didn't fight, and that the Sound Jinan was playing it safe. Why is everyone forfeiting their matches? Don't they have any pride in being shinobi? Are they all that weak? Said Sasuke, his voice filled with anger at the act the Leaf wasn't showing off its potential and that he wasn't down there to make it happen. Now calm down, Sasuke. From what I understand, Gaara severely brutalized Lee in his preliminary match a month ago, and I'm sure Dosu doesn't want to have his own body nearly destroyed. After all, Sound doesn't have someone of Tsunade's caliber to heal their injured, and a minor village values their shinobi due to so few of them, said Kakashi next to his student, and then looked over at Sephiroth not that far away, currently sitting with Haku along with a robed figure sitting next to them. After Lee's battle with Gaara, the mini-guy clone had been told by the Hokage he would never be a shinobi again due to his injuries, and that the damage was too extensive for even her medical skills to heal. The opening of the chakra gates, the brutality of Gaara's manipulation of the sand, and the seemingly bloodthirsty nature that transpired during the match had crippled the Leaf Shinan beyond repair. At least, that was what people were told until Sephiroth came to pay the Leaf Shinobi a visit like a godlike figure or the pre-verbal devil coming to make a deal in exchange for one's soul. No one knew what was spoken between them, as Sephiroth had made Lee promise not to reveal what was said on his honor, and soon after the Leaf Shinan found himself completely healed by the swordsman's hands. Lee himself didn't know what Sephiroth did to heal his injuries due to the one-winged angel putting him to sleep before healing the broken body. It was also rumored that Sabaku no Gaara had also encountered Sephiroth near Lee's room, but that moment was much shorter, and had left the Kazekage's youngest child somewhat shaken. Though what caused it, again no one knew the reason, and rumors spread like wildfire. What about that one Suna shinobi? Surely that one sibling of the Kazekage could have taken on the one from Sound rather than forfeit. Something about this is very wrong here, Kakashi, said Kurenai, a row above them watching from the stands before glancing over at Sephiroth with narrowed eyes. She has a point. A shinobi like that puppet user should be more than a match for that one from Sound, even if Sephiroth was the boy's sensei. Puppet users are known to have more than one puppet at their disposal, and I'm sure the son of the Kazekage has quite a few of them to take down his opponent. So why forfeit? Thought Kakashi, as he narrowed his own eye at Sephiroth, and saw the swordsman looking down at the arena with his usual calmness that was constantly unreadable. You think Sephiroth is up to something, Kakashi-sensei? Said Sakura, as she saw her Jounin-sensei look at Sephiroth, and had that serious thinking pose on his masked face. Maybe. Stay on guard, said Kakashi, as he turned to the next match, which he sensed made Kurenai nervous, and for good reason too. Hyuga Hinata was now fighting Sabaku no Gaara. That's why Dosu forfeit. Sephiroth told him to, so Gaara would fight Hinata in the next round since she was to face the winner. Thought Kurenai, as she glared at Sephiroth, who was now showing a smirk on his face, and it was taking considerable willpower not to go over to him before punching his lights out. This is bad. If Gaara is anything like he was a month ago, Hinata doesn't stand a chance against him, and he'll rip her apart, said Kiba, with Akamaru barking in agreement while Shino watched silently, though his bugs buzzed noticeably around him. Neji? Said Tenten, looking at her teammate looking at the matchup carefully. I do not know if Hinata-sama can win Tenten. She had been studying relentlessly with Tsunade-sama, but 1 month worth of preparation may not be enough, and Sabaku no Gaara is not one to show mercy to his opponents, said Neji, fearing for his cousin, and saw Lee nod his head in agreement. Nevertheless, if Sephiroth-sama believes in your cousin Neji, then we must have faith that such a belief had merit, and trust her to prevail where others could not, said Lee, seeing his teammates and even Sensei look at him in surprise at referring to Sephiroth with such respect. Why are you referring to him with such respect, Lee? Said Tenten, seeing Lee looking at the match with his well-trained eyes. Because Tenten, I wouldn't be here, as an active Genin of the Leaf, if it wasn't for him, and he had earned my respect for doing something he didn't have to from the start. After my battle was over, I remembered him clapping in the balcony above me, and applauding us both for showing our skills in being shinobi before I became unconscious, said Lee, seeing Gaara now unleashing his sand upon Hinata with the young Hyuga girl moving around with flexible grace her clan was never known for, while trying not to get caught in the tendrils of sand that wished to devour her. Hinata knew from the start what Gaara's sand could do, as she had witnessed its brutality under his command, and how it killed others in terrifying ways, like she saw him do in the Forest of Death with the Amazinon team. Even if she got close enough to him, the Hyuga heiress wasn't foolish enough to believe her gentle fist taijutsu could pierce through the thick layer of sand he'd throw up to defend himself, or the layer of sand that Gaara wore over his own skin like body armor. Even the Kaiden was out of the question if she could perform it, as Hinata knew the ending of the spin would leave her temporarily vulnerable, and Gaara preyed on such things during battle. If Hinata had a remote chance of beating Gaara, much less surviving this matchup with him, she knew the only way was to use the skills Tsunade taught her, and quickly before the tendrils of sand became a wave that consumed everything in its grasp. Leaping back a safe distance, Hinata slammed her fist down onto the ground, causing the area around her to shake violently, and surprising everyone that she learned Tsunade's super strength technique so soon in a month's time. As the ground shook, Sabaku no Gaara found himself finding it hard to stay standing due to the unstable ground his opponent had created, and a fissure produced from the quake heading his way. Leaping away from the fissure now moving past him, Gaara was soon surprised again when Hinata used the skill to make large chunks of rock to jump in front of her before kicking them hard towards the surprised son of the Kazekage. The sand of course came up, shielding the red-haired boy from Suna of the smaller rocks sent his way, but could do little to stop the one mass of stone Hinata shot towards him that was roughly his size and height with the same width of his body plus the gourd holding the sand. The massive projectile hit Gaara right in the head with sand skin armor, which was his last line of defense, being the only thing preventing the boy from having a major head trauma aside from a small concussion. The sand skin armor cracked from the impact of the massive rock, which shocked the Suna siblings, and their sensei, since only Rock Lee had been able to do such a thing before Gaara nearly killed him. Seeing her chance to weaken the seemingly invincible boy from Suna, Hinata continued the assault, using her damn near perfect chakra control to create more projectiles, and then shoot them at the stunned Sabaku. She didn't relent either, as Hinata shot wave after wave, and shot after shot until not even Gaara's sand could be focused to stop them all. She's doing remarkably well, Sephiroth-sama, said the robe-covered figure beside the swordsman. As I knew she would given her teacher, said Sephiroth, smiling at Hinata and seeing the power he knew was always there. Haku saw it too, but unlike Sephiroth, she did not smile, and instead frowned behind her mask while thinking up ways to counter such skills should the need arise to remove this threat to Sephiroth-sama. She had heard his command to not kill the Hyuga heiress, which Haku would honor to the end of her days, but there was absolutely nothing from stopping the female ice user from coming up with a means to protect Sephiroth-sama from such a powerful threat, and figuring out how to neutralize it, right? No. Haku would do her duty while skating along the edge of not disobeying her master and simply find a way to keep the Hyuga girl from ever using such skills against Sephiroth-sama. Simple, right? Right. Sephiroth-sama, it's almost time for Kabuto to make his move, said the robed figure, as he sensed Kabuto's chakra signature, and preparing the jutsu to knock everyone out. You know what to do, Kimimaro, but remember not to overexert yourself, and do not toy with your prey, said Sephiroth, seeing his robed figure that was the albino Kaguya nod in agreement before silently heading out. Where is he going? Thought Hayate before coughing at the sight of the white-haired man next to Sephiroth get out of his seat and walking away. The idea of leaving his students to continue surveillance on the robed figure was tempting at the moment, but Hayate decided not to, since his students would no doubt get involved, and they may put themselves in a position beyond their pay grade. For now, he would let the secretly roaming Anbu do their job, and trust in his love Yu Gao along with her team to take care of things. A scream of unimaginable pain echoed throughout the arena, which broke Hayate from his thoughts, as he looked down to see Gaara holding the side of his head before looking down at his palm, and saw his blood on it. His blood. Not Hinata's. Not Lee's. And not some stupid shinobi assassin his father sent to kill him shortly after turning 6 years old. My blood. You made me bleed. Now you die, yelled Gaara, as he was done playing games with this girl, and formed a circular ball of sand over his body with a single eye materializing to look around while he was inside it. This is bad. He's going to use that now? Said Kankuro worriedly, since that was not part of the plan. Doesn't matter. It's already starting, said Tamari, seeing the feathers descend from the sky and the people falling asleep in the stands. The invasion of the leaf had started. An explosion in the cage's booth had alerted the shinobi not under the genjutsu's power began to fight off Suna and sound shinobi around them. Surprisingly enough, Sephiroth of all people was striking down all three that stood in his path, and so was Haku, since it was now time to cast aside such loyalties to Sound Village. From where he was currently standing, Sephiroth could see the Sound Four get into position around Tsunade, and the now revealed Orochimaru, knowing they were moments away from putting up the barrier Kimimaro told him was going to be used. Time to intervene on my godmother's behalf, said Sephiroth, as he grabbed Haku by the waist, and vanished from the sight of those around him, only to appear in between the two former teammates mere seconds before the barrier came up. What are you doing here, Sephiroth? You were supposed to go find Jiraiya and kill him, said Orochimaru, seeing the young swordsman look at him with a raised eyebrow. Oh, I will, Orochimaru-san, but you seem to be mistaken me for one of your submissive subordinates, and misunderstood my agreement to hunt down Jiraiya being a mission I would carry out on my terms. Not yours, said Sephiroth, as he saw the Sannin glaring at him, and pulled out Kusanagi from his mouth to his hands. He could have the Sound Four lower the barrier, but by now an Anbu squad had arrived to attack the moment the barrier was down, and Orochimaru knew this could be the only time presented to him to kill his former teammate. Besides, it wasn't the snake. Sannin didn't have an ace of his own up his sleeve, as there was this one summoning jutsu he had been working on to give him a solid edge over opponents rivaling his own strength, and he had something in mind for Sephiroth that went perfectly for his fight against Tsunade. I won't go down without a fight, and I will have my revenge. Summoning, impure world resurrection, said Orochimaru, as he went through the hand signs, and summoned 3 coffins to rise from the ground while mentally patting himself on the backup plan to use those 3 Fuma clan members to be his sacrifices for this jutsu, since Kin was nowhere to be found while the other 2 Jinan had advanced to the Chunin exam finals. We need to stop the coffins from rising, said Tsunade, as she made the necessary hand sign to negate one of the 3 coffins while Haku mimicked it to stop the second coffin, but the last one rose without opposition, and then the lid soon fell to reveal the person inside of it, and made the 2 of 3 pair of eyes watching the figure widen in surprise at the sight of him. It was the Yondaime Hokage in all his glory. Interesting, said Sephiroth, seeing his father step out of the coffin and look back at him with an indifferent look on his face. Haku fell to one knee, as the chakra used for the jutsu she along with Tsunade did to stop the majority of the coffins had been taxing on her body, and looked at Sephiroth to see him take a few steps forward to indicate this battle was his alone. Haku knew this the moment she saw the Yondaime come out of the coffin, as the battle between father and son was something long overdue, even if it was never meant to happen. So you became what the prophecy stated. My plan to stop it failed, said the Yondaime, seeing Sephiroth before him, and did not look pleased. It was going to happen whether you tried to stop it or not. All you did was give me a reason to become what you and everyone else feared in regards to the prophecy. The piece of your soul inside of me, as a failsafe, learned that the hard way after Kyuubi tore you to shreds, and he was most thankful to have his revenge. Now, I will have mine, said Sephiroth, seeing the Yondaime scowl further, not understanding for a second before the realization hit him. I see. Then I will just have to do what I didn't have the courage to ask Jiraiya or even the Sandaime do before, and kill you myself, said Yondaime, seeing Sephiroth smirking at him. You will try and you will fail, said Sephiroth, with his power swirling around him like a storm, and the killer intent coming off his body was nearly bone-crushing. Enough talk. Kill him, said Orochimaru, as he put the tag into the Yondaime's skull, and the man's body returned to its normal healthy self. Tsunade, I will leave Orochimaru's demise in your capable hands, said Sephiroth, as he sensed his busty godmother nod, and charged towards her former teammate while leaving the returned Yondaime Hokage to him. The family ties that bind us together will finally be severed today, my monster of a son, said Minato simply. There are no ties between us. There never was, said Sephiroth, seeing his father bring out his sword, and the two rushed the other with their swords clashing. Isn't it wonder to see such family disunity, Tsunade-chan? The chaos manifesting itself, thanks to my genius and the Leaf's past arrogance? Said Orochimaru, grinning wickedly at Tsunade. And what of us, team? What do you hope to accomplish by fighting me? Said Tsunade, as she saw him grinning wider, and hated the sight of that smile. Why the epic battle between good and evil? Of the saint versus the sinner. Of course, being the serious one of our old team, you never did learn to have any fun, and go along with things, Tsunade-chan, said Orochimaru, seeing the woman scowl at him. I'll show you fun when I knock your head clean off your shoulders, said Tsunade, as she rushed forward at her former teammate, ready to knock him into his own barrier, and into next week. Not that far away, Sephiroth was in a sword battle with his own father, who, being the ever-infamous Namikaze he was, had been able to hold his own against his son, and was doing all within his power to take younger Namikaze's head clean off. Sephiroth in turn was doing the same, knowing that his dear father wasn't going to be easy to kill like the Sandaime was, since the old man tried reason during the last moments of his life and did not have the strength the Yondaime did to push the one-winged angel of death back. Before we continue this blood feud any further, I wish to ask you one simple question about your parentage, and if you feel offended then by all means please let me know, said Sephiroth, as Masamune sparked against Minato's unnamed sword, and saw his father's looking at him with narrowed eyes. What's the question? Speak before I slay you, said Minato, as they broke apart, then clashed again with clashing blades, and shook the ground around them. Did you know Jiraiya of the Sannin was your father? Said Sephiroth, seeing the wide-eyed look of his father, and knew the answer to his question. It was no. It doesn't matter, said Minato, as he saw Sephiroth smirking, and then pushed the man back before gliding back in a retreating manner. It doesn't matter? Did you know your so-called father secretly kept an eye on you just in case it was you, who was the child of prophecy, and planned to take your life in the event it was true? Said Sephiroth, seeing Minato frowning further for a second in disbelief. That cannot be right, said Minato, as he was confused, but why was he confused, and why did it hurt him so that Jiraiya would have such plans in effect? What Minato, the one currently standing before Sephiroth, didn't realize, was that mere thought of possible betrayal by his bastard father of a sensei had affected his mind, and the seals on the tag in his skull further influenced his mind. They seemed to prevent the rational part of the Yondaime Hokage from seeing what he would have normally saw from his own point of view, which seemed less likely now due to the fact a portion of his soul that was once in his son being destroyed, and further making the man see things in a way that he normally wouldn't in the past. Just because the piece of Minato's soul that was once in Sephiroth's body was gone, did not mean the link between the two was severed, and had unexpectedly caused the younger Namikaze's feelings on the matter to be pushed into his sire's mind to be felt. To be understood by the father on what the son went through with such betrayal, and that such things were unfair in its entirety. So now do you see? Now do you understand what I feel in my heart? What you did to me out of your own fears. You were, in some strange way, just like me, and the betrayal of someone you trusted without question. You were watched just like I was. Kept an eye on with someone in the shadows lurking to take your life should you be what they now know I am. It hurts, doesn't it? Said Sephiroth, seeing his father frowning, the tag in his mind fighting him for control to obey Orochimaru's commands, and fighting some other entity within the older Namikaze. The Shinigami that was summoned that night over a decade ago appeared above 9 of them. Tsunade, Orochimaru, Sephiroth, the Yondaime, Haku, and the Sound Four looked up, seeing the only being capable of sealing up the Kyuubi within another. Who dares try to manipulate the soul that I devoured 13 years ago? A soul only I am allowed to command, said the clearly pissed off Shinigami. He does, said Sephiroth calmly, as he pointed to Orochimaru looking up fearfully at the death god, and backing away in fright. "You? I have had enough of your meddling in my affairs, you filthy snake. It is high time that you faced your long overdue and forestalled judgment at my own hands," said the Shinigami, as he had ignored Orochimaru until now was because the rules in place by all the other gods in the whole stinking universe prevented him from doing something, and only by the Sanin's meddling and using the souls he owned could the death god interfere. "No. I won't let you. Stay back. Back," said Orochimaru, as he swung his sword wildly at the angry death god, and it only seemed to make the Shinigami angrier. Not the wisest thing to do. Within moments, the death god was upon Orochimaru, and ripped out the Sanin's soul with such cruel force that you could hear the tearing sound made from the body. Those around the Shinigami watched Orochimaru's soul get devoured, hearing the sounds of the demonic figure munching on his soul-based meal with relish, and then turned towards the two members of the Namikaze clan. Haku, seeing this, quickly moved in front of the Shinigami with her back to Sephiroth, ready to protect her master even from the death god himself. However, what surprised everyone around her was the Shinigami laughed at Haku's actions, and almost had a gentle look on his face, and was now staring him right in the eyes. "It is not your time yet, young one. As much as I would like to take your soul right now, the fates tell me no, and to applaud you for your courage. Watching over him is your duty, and not even I will tempt my hand in stopping your purpose in life, my dear. As for you, Yondaime Hokage, I know what caused the prophecy regarding the one-winged angel's return was partially your fault, and the fault of several others. I am going to enjoy punishing you for your arrogance and stupidity that led to his return," said the Shinigami, grinning at his whimpering property before the man's body began to decay. By this point, the Sound Four lowered the barrier, and saw Sephiroth stare at his now repentant-looking father, giving the son a weak smile that clearly told the younger of the two Namikaze that the man was sorry for his past actions. Not long after seeing the body of the Yondaime Hokage turn to ash, did Kimimaro appear, kneeling before Sephiroth, and reporting that Kabuto had been eliminated. Suna's forces are also pulling back upon learning Orochimaru's hand in the Kazekage's death, while Dosu, Zaku, and Kin are out of the village heading for the rendezvous point. Gaara was not pleased by this, "But I did as you instructed, and quickly reminded him not to provoke you into unleashing your anger," said Kimimaro, as it stopped Gaara from unleashing his one-tailed demon out on Konoha, and causing unnecessary damage. "Kimimaro? What are you doing? Did you help betray Orochimaru-sama?" said Jirobo, as he saw Kimimaro glaring at the large man, and made him flinch. "Orochimaru betrayed me. Sephiroth-sama brought me to the Hokage to heal my body of the disease that plagued it, while Orochimaru kept me from such a person out of his own selfish pride. My loyalty is to the one-winged angel," said Kimimaro, as he watched the other members of the Sound Four look at Sephiroth cautiously, and now wondering what would happen to them since Orochimaru was no longer among the living. Before any real thought could be put into the idea of what their purpose was now, a figure moved at blinding speed towards Sephiroth, and before either of his loyal bodyguards could stop the figure that was Jiraiya of the Sanin, he struck surprised swordsman in the chest with a glowing right hand. Jiraiya then went through one-handed hand signs and was nearly complete with his sealing jutsu he had prepared for his grandson when Haku snapped out of her shock before stabbing the free hand with senbone needles to stop what it was the Toad Sanin was doing. Kimimaro quickly struck Jiraiya in the face with a spin kick to disconnect the man from his master, and caught the swordsman, now gasping in pain at what the Sanin did to him. "Damn! The poison-induced sealing I hit Sephiroth with is incomplete. Considering how many hand signs I went through, he must have got 60% of the dosage in the seal, and can recover if given enough time," thought Jiraiya, as he moved to attack again, but surprisingly Tsunade now stood in his path, and she punched him right in the face with a pissed-off look that she hadn't sported since the time he was caught peeping on her in the hot springs. "Sephiroth-sama," said Haku, as she looked at his pained face, and at the warped seal that she could tell was hurting his body. Haku. I feel weak. Cold," said Sephiroth, as he felt his body was suffering, and was losing strength fast. "We need to get you out of here," said Haku, as she along with Kimimaro holding onto him, but were soon surrounded by Anbu, and other Leaf Shinobi with weapons drawn. "Namikaze Sephiroth, you are under arrest for the murder of the Sandaime Hokage, and will surrender for the impending trial in front of the Fire Daimyo himself," said Kakashi among his fellow Anbu while getting ready to summon his Rikiri should it be required to take Sephiroth down. "Earth-style barrier, Earth Dome prison," said Jirobo in a sudden unexpected move that trapped the Leaf Shinobi. "What the fuck are you doing, Fatso?" said Tuya, seeing Big Guy using that jutsu. "Picking a side, Tuya. Besides, we can't stay here in the Leaf. They will crucify us just for being Orochimaru's bodyguards, and torture us for information, said Jirobo, as he saw Kimimaro help Haku carry Sephiroth away to the edge of stadium roof, and prepare to leap away. He's got a point. I don't know about you guys, but I value my freedom, and I'm not about to be locked up by these guys, said Kitamaru, as saw the Leaf Shinobi not caught in the dome now trying to stop Sephiroth from escaping, and shot sticky gold webbing from his mouth to impede the Leaf Shinobi further. Great. Just fucking great. We go from serving the Uchiha-loving pedophile to this crazy cocksucker, said Tuya, as she along with the others quickly joined the two escaping with Sephiroth, and heard the weakened swordsman whisper for them to follow him to Wave Country since shinobi don't normally go there. He's getting away, said a Jounin from the Inuzuka clan. It doesn't matter. Securing the village does. Lock the village down now, said Tsunade, as she saw them nod, and then disperse before turning to face an angry Jiraiya now in her face. You just made a big mistake, Tsunade. In his weakened condition, I could have subdued Sephiroth, and the other two before the others got involved, said Jiraiya, as his red angry face was now covering up most of the bruise on his face, and made it seem like the injury wasn't as bad as it looked. I don't care. Report what I did to the fire daimyo. Remove me from being Hokage and effectively weaken the leaf further. I don't care, said Tsunade, as she left a shocked Jiraiya looking back at her, and went to speak with Shizune along with Hinata. They needed to have a serious talk. Chapter 8 Road to Recovery. The group quickly made it to Wave Country where the former Sound Jinan team of Kin, Dosu, and Zaku had only recently arrived at, with the location showing a house on the far side of town that had seen better days. Quickly getting inside, Haku with Kimimaro got Sephiroth to the couch in the living room, and saw the seal on his chest near his heart was still active in pumping poison into his body. Whatever this was, it was clear Jiraiya had designed this seal specifically for taking Sephiroth down, and painfully at that should the opportunity present itself. Sephiroth-sama, said Haku, seeing her master's eyes now half closed and struggling to breathe and was struggling to stay conscious. Do not worry, Haku. I will recover from this. I just need time, said Sephiroth, as he began coughing horribly for a second, and blood came out of his mouth in the color of a shadowy black instead of the expected crimson. Time. We may not have Sephiroth-sama, said Kimimaro with concern, knowing there was a chance they could be tracked here by a highly skilled tracking unit from Konoha. Kimimaro is right. No doubt Konoha will send several Anbu teams to hunt you down and in your condition, said Haku, cleaning the blood from his mouth before seeing him smile at her gently with kind eyes. I would be killed or captured. That's why I have you, Haku. I need your help now to heal what you can. Kimimaro, I need you to find out where the Sound 4's loyalties now rest, and see if they are willing to follow me, said Sephiroth in an almost whispery voice that only the two could hear. I understand, Sephiroth-sama, said Kimimaro, as he left his master's side, and motioned for the Sound 4 to follow him with a look that told the four to not argue with him. After those 5 former bodyguards of Orochimaru left, Kin along with Dosu and Zaku had come into the room to see their assigned sensei in his current state of anguish. It was because of Sephiroth's actions they weren't currently dead or worse at the hands of the now late Orochimaru during the Chunin exams. What about us, Sephiroth sensei? Said Kin, as she saw the young swordsman look at them for a second, and then close his eyes in thought. At least she thought he closed them in thought. Keep watch for any suspicious activity in Wave, as we may experience some in the next few days, and return here in the event there are Anbu in the area, said Sephiroth, as he saw the trio nod, and head out to keep an eye on things for him. I can manipulate the poison in your body with my bloodline and pull out of your body, Sephiroth-sama. Not all of it, but enough to cause you less pain, and help your recovery proceed much faster, said Haku, as she studied the seal, and seeing it was a vial slowly spilling the poison into Sephiroth's body at a rate meant to subdue rather than kill him. How much of it will remain? Said Sephiroth, feeling Haku slowly working her medical skills on him. Half of what he gave you. I don't know how much Jiraiya-san sealed into your body, but I can remove half of what is in you now, and we'll try treating the rest that remains in your system, said Haku, seeing him nod at her words. It is to be expected. Things are never easy for someone like me, said Sephiroth, as he coughed again, but with less force behind it, and less blood came out of his mouth. True, said Haku, as she carefully used her bloodline to manipulate the liquid out of Sephiroth's body without hurting him, and walked over to an old slightly dusty glass before depositing the contents into it. While that happened, Kimimaro came back in with the former Sound 4, who saw some form of color had returned to Sephiroth now that half the poison had been removed, and was no longer threatening to make things worse. Still, it didn't mean the infamous young swordsman was out of the woods yet, as his body was still weakened, and it would not be long before Anbu came hunting for them. They've reached a decision, Sephiroth-sama, said Kimimaro, as he stood beside his master, and it hurt the Kaguya to see him like this. It reminded the albino all too well of his own disease had weakening his body. And what did they decide? Said Sephiroth, as he saw the former Sound 4 look a bit nervous, and nudged Kimimaro forward to answer. We decided to follow you, Sephiroth-sama. We know what you did for Kimimaro and the Chunin team that was going to be used for whatever it is Orochimaru did when facing the Hokage. You see the value of those who serve under your command, and we kind of want to see how that goes. So if you're cool with it, we'd like to, said Kimimaro before Tuya decided to interrupt him. Oh, what the six-armed fucker means is we'd like to join you, and help out any way we can because you're not like the snake pedophile, said Tuya, seeing Kimimaro glare at her for that. It made Sephiroth let out an amused chuckle at them despite the pain it had caused to his body. Very well. For the moment, you can rest to recover your lost strength, and prepare a plan should the Leaf send Anbu here, said Sephiroth, seeing the four nod and look for a room to sit down in before coming up with a plan. What about me, Sephiroth-sama? Said Kimimaro, seeing the swordsman resting his head back on the couch. You need to receive more healing treatments from Haku since your disease is not fully removed from your body, said Sephiroth, seeing the female ice user becoming hesitant and leaving his side, but the silent command with his eyes told Haku to obey, and saw the last Kaguya nod in understanding. Will you be alright by yourself here, Sephiroth-sama? Said Kimimaro, knowing they could move him to a bed upstairs if they needed to. I just need to rest. I won't go anywhere. I promise, said Sephiroth, seeing his two most loyal subordinates nod their heads and closed his eyes to rest. Konoha 2 days later, Hokage Tower. So he's been weakened considerably. Is that your belief in this matter, Jiraiya-sama? Said Koharu, as she along with the other high-ranking officials of Konoha's government had a meeting with the Sannin about the situation with Sephiroth, and about the poison-laced seal on the Namikaze's chest. Yes. Roughly 60% of the seal I attached to Sephiroth has poisoned his body just enough that we could send an Anbu team to take him down, said Jiraiya, as his hand hurt from where Haku had stabbed him, and took a medic some time to heal his injuries. While that is all good in theory, where could he even hide, and is it someplace we have an alliance with in order to prevent an international incident? Said Homura, as he saw Jiraiya look deep in thought on the matter, and knew even he was unsure on where their foe may have fled. I don't know. That village Orochimaru founded could be a good start, but I highly doubt Sephiroth would go back there to recover, and will more than likely head someplace he knows we won't find him until much later, said Jiraiya, as he knew of several locations to look for Sephiroth, but the way the Leaf was damaged during the invasion, much of the manpower needed was being directed to fixing the village, and couldn't spare anyone at the moment to hunt their enemy down. When can a team be formed to track Sephiroth down? Said Danzo, as he had his own timetable to follow, and needed his own forces to prepare a team. It depends on who's alive, injured, or dead right now. I need a combination of trackers, assault, and possibly assassination specialists to be put together, said Jiraiya, as he sought Tsunade behind them with her hands laced together, looking at him dead in the eyes the entire time, and they were filled with pure anger. We'll make a list of who is available to you, Jiraiya-sama, said Koharu, as she saw him nod, and leave with Tsunade doing the same while ignoring her advisor's protest. Jiraiya, said Tsunade, as she saw the man turn to face her, and he did not look happy to have a conversation with her right now. What, Tsunade? Said the Toad Sannin, seeing his old teammate walking towards him with a purpose. You can fool them, but not me. I know you have a team in mind and not all of them are Anbu, said Tsunade, as she saw him shrug slightly, and knew that was a so what? Answer for him. I had a few interesting candidates. Like Shinan Team 9 with Mito Guy for one holds promise. I was also thinking Inuzuka Hana could be added to the tracking team with her brother, and I need Yugao's Anbu team. Along with Yuhi Kurenai, Hatake Kakashi, and the oldest of the two Ino Shikacho teams, since those two will be able to stop that Haku girl from helping him should she decide to get involved, said Jiraiya, as he saw Tsunade narrowed her eyes, and looking at him with suspicion. And what makes you think half of them will want to fight Sephiroth? Said Tsunade, as she saw Jiraiya smirk at him, and didn't like it. Because they know it's the right thing to do, Tsunade. Because it is their duty as shinobi to do things no one else can be asked. Something you have forgotten, said Jiraiya, as he saw the woman a breath away from sending him to the ER, and making sure he stayed in a coma for the rest of his life. Don't lecture me on doing one's duty, Jiraiya. You're the one that conspired against your own godson and helped cause the stupid prophecy you wanted to stop from happening. Why don't you go out there and sire another bastard child and then raise it like a parent should? Or are you too old and limp downstairs to even get a woman to have your bastard child? said Tsunade before walking away from a now angry Jiraiya while smirking at getting the last word in. Konoha Hospital sometime later, so you are accepting my offer, Hinata? If I choose to leave Konoha, you will come with me, and Shizune is my official apprentice? Said Tsunade to Hinata, seeing the girl nod her head vigorously. Yes. I accept your offer, Tsunade-sama. I can't stand Konoha anymore. I see the truth in the people of this village and it sickens me to no end, said Hinata, as she couldn't stay in the village anymore, and felt the need to escape from this place. Good. At the rate things are going, we'll be leaving here sooner than later, and I can't wait since there is nothing holding me back from leaving the village again. Not anymore this time, said Tsunade, as she would have stayed after the Kyuubi attack, and raised Naruto had certain factors prevented that possibility. I understand, said Hinata, as she knew this was for the best since Hanabi would not be branded with the cage bird seal, and her cousin Neji would be in good hands since the younger of the two sisters wasn't like the Hyuga elders in wanting to use the cage bird seal on the branch family members. Tsunade-sama, the councils will see to it that your traveling privileges are revoked, and we will be hunted constantly by Hunter Nin, said Shizune with concern, knowing what the consequences would be of leaving the village and if the powers that be running the leaf wished to punish the female Hokage further. Let them. I'll send each one back to them in pieces, said Tsunade, as she turned to her right to stare at the young apprentice, and smiled at the Hyuga girl, knowing that month of training had paid off for the Chunin exams. And I'll help, said Hinata, as she knew where her loyalties lied, and it wasn't with the Leaf Village. It was with those that believed in her. Those that saw Hyuga Hinata as a diamond in the rough that just needed to be molded into said diamond before polishing the jewel with key precision to make it shine beautifully. The one person who saw such potential in her first was Sephiroth, and had made it known to those around him, knowing that the right person, being the Hokage, would look into such claims before seeing they were indeed accurate. That's the spirit, Hinata-chan, said Tsunade, as she was loving this girl being her student with each passing day, and would look forward to teaching Hinata everything she could in the medical arts. And then some. Wave Country 1 week later, another day without incident so far, Sephiroth-sama, said Kimimaro, seeing his master resting in a newly acquired comfortable chair meant for someone in his condition, now wearing all white this time from head to toe with a hood over his face, and drinking the herbal tea Haku prepared to combat the poison. So far, Kimimaro. Just because we do not have anything to report yet, doesn't mean that there won't be in the near future, and to think otherwise would be foolish. What about Tazuna? How did your conversation with him go? Said Sephiroth, as he was no longer coughing dark blood, and was slowly getting stronger with each passing day. I understand, Sephiroth-sama. As for Tazuna, he was a little concerned about you being here in Wave Country, but I assured him it was only temporary, and you are not here to cause him harm. He has also promised me that no one will know you are here, though his tongue, said Kimimaro, as he saw Sephiroth nod his head in understanding, and sipped more of his tea. That is good news to hear. Remember, Kimimaro, showing mercy to the right people can allow one to have a means to disappear, and stay hidden for as long as necessary, said Sephiroth, knowing the old man was still grateful to be spared the feeling of death with Masamune piercing his gut or head being taken off in one quick slash. I will remember that, Sephiroth-sama. I have also had your Junon team do additional training to further prepare them for battle, said Kimimaro, as he had the Sound 4 take shifts with the trio, and manage a proper training regime for everyone. Good work, Kimimaro. How go your treatments? Said Sephiroth, as he could tell that the albino was getting healthier thanks to Haku, and the notes pertaining to the treatments Tsunade had administered during their 1-month stay in Konoha. They are progressing well, Sephiroth-sama. Haku believes my disease is nearly cured, said Kimimaro, seeing Haku nod in agreement. Keep continuing the treatments as scheduled until Haku can say for certain your disease has been removed, and continue with random checkups at times to make sure it doesn't come back, said Sephiroth, as he smiled at his two loyal subordinates, and saw they were pleased with this information. Kimimaro. It's Dosu. We may have a problem, said Dosu into his radio that reached the albino at the name Safe House, since the group didn't know what else to call it. Go ahead, said Kimimaro, listening in while Haku looked at Sephiroth with concern. Kin went into town after we dyed her hair, and Haku was able to get her a civilian dress to further blend in with the populace in order to better keep a lookout. She just sent me a Morse code message into her radio using one of her hair pins and relayed to me that Leaf Shinobi are snooping around asking questions about Sephiroth-sensei. One of them, from what she described, was Jiraiya of the Sanin, said Dosu, as he along with Zaku were about 15 minutes away from their sector near the Safe House, and the Sound 4 were also covering their own sectors right now too. Do nothing. Any noticeable attention by us will lead the Sanin here, and in Sephiroth-sama's current condition, he cannot stand up against him, and we do not have the strength to repel the man plus whatever forces are backing him up, said Kimimaro, as he saw his still weakened master stroking Haku's hand gently while she looked from Sephiroth to the albino with a "we need a strategy" look on her face. Right. From what Kin reported, it's a pretty heady group following the Toad Sanin, as it has mostly Jounin, a special Jounin, some Onbu, Tui Nuzuka, and the experienced Shinan team that was in the Chunin exams. The one with the green spandex kid, who earned Sephiroth Sensei's recognition when fighting Sabaku no Gara in the prelims, and their Sensei too, said Dosu, as he knew they were no match for the Sanin, and the rest would just run right over them easily. Troublesome, said Sephiroth, as he used the line of a certain Nara boy in Konoha, and is just as lazy Nara of a father. Can we escape? All of us. Leave in randomly different areas and then meet up with each other somewhere else? Said Haku, as she saw Kimimaro look away deep in thought, and saw Sephiroth had his eyes closed while doing the same. We can't. If we try to leave now, they will discover us, and try to capture one of you before interrogating the caught individual for information, said Sephiroth, as he had hoped the Sanin would be delayed by the damage done to the village, and the lockdown after the invasion would last longer. Apparently not. Sephiroth-sama is right. For now, we must make absolutely no movement unless there is no choice, but to move if spotted, and if that happens you must move away from us. Stall them if you're forced to fight, said Kimimaro, seeing Sephiroth wince slightly when he tried to move and fell back in his chair. The poison wouldn't fully leave his system, and QB estimated another 3 full days under Haku's care before he was back to normal. But could they last 3 whole days? Kin is going to continue surveillance by going around town while pretending to shop at different stores. Since the town is small enough she can be at different places they are and not look suspicious, said Dosu, knowing he couldn't do it because of his bandaged face and Zaku's hands had devices in his palms that people might notice. Kin was the only one on the team that could pass for a normal person. Understood. Once Kin is done, have her report back, but take the long way around near one of the Sound 4 to make sure she's not being followed, and report should they get near any of sectors one of us is in, said Kimimaro, hearing the confirmation from Dosu, who went about retransmitting the order to the others, and Kin respectively, since the Tui Nuzuka with the group of Leaf Shinobi might pick up the voices on her earpiece. How long until you recover, Sephiroth-sama? Said Haku, as she saw him move again, but the pain behind it was clear that the poison had done more than enough damage even with the half she removed from his body. Haku shuddered to think what the full dosage of this would do to him. 3 days, including this one, said Sephiroth simply to the woman. Unfortunately, Sephiroth-sama, will be lucky to survive the hour, much less the rest of today, and tonight if we're not careful, said Kimimaro, knowing the group from the Leaf would eventually find them given the estimated strength in the area, and that wasn't even counting potential bloodlines among the group too. We will endure nonetheless. There is no other choice. In the event we are caught, you must flee without me, and escape their persecution, said Sephiroth, seeing the two look at him in disbelief. We cannot. We won't, said Kimimaro, seeing Sephiroth look at him with a kind smile that seemed to show a part of the swordsman that did not fit him yet was natural all the same. You must. Deep down, I am a heartless monster. A monster, who hates what he cannot have, and it was always meant to be that as a monster, I die alone like I have in my past life, said Sephiroth, seeing Haku have tears in her eyes and hugging him now. That's not true, Sephiroth-sama. You can have it. Believe me when I say you are not a heartless monster like everyone thinks. You can love and you can be loved, said Haku, as she didn't want him to believe he was like that since his actions disproved it, and just showed the swordsman did care about others. If only it were that simple, Haku, thought Sephiroth, as a part of Uzumaki Naruto within the body wished for love too, and both had been denied it all their lives. Even if love of some kind was now remotely within Sephiroth's reach, it would just be taken away. I know you don't wish us to throw away our lives, but we will defend you with every fiber of our being, Sephiroth-sama, and do what we must to make sure you live long enough to fulfill your dream, said Kimimaro, as he was not about to let his master die, and at the hands of these Leaf scum. His warrior pride and honor as a Kaguya would not let him. In town with Jiraiya the Toad Sanin knew they were being watched by someone in town, but the people all looked the same to him, and was finding it difficult to pinpoint the pair of eyes watching his every movement. If he had either of the two Ino Shikacho groups with him, the Sanin was positive the person spying for Sephiroth would be revealed sooner to him, and find the weakened swordsman sooner. Many people were already looking at or the area around him while wondering what he and the large shinobi force from the Leaf were doing here in Wave Country, since they didn't know of any possible mission that required so many people from Konoha. Did you find anything? Anyone that seems remotely suspicious? Said Jiraiya into his headset hidden under his helmet and hair to the others in the group. Nothing so far. Are you sure he'd head here? After what happened here with Zabuza? Said Anko, as she had read the report, and wondered if anyone would help Sephiroth in his moment of weakness. Sephiroth spared Tazana the end of his sword during that mission. The people of Wave Country know that it is because of him. Gato is now dead, and the bridge is complete. If there is one place Sephiroth could hide for a short time, it would be here, and this could be the only chance we get at capturing him. That seal I hit him with can't be duplicated again, and Sephiroth could be nearly recovered by now, said Jiraiya, as he could try to hit Sephiroth with the rest of the poison, but the swordsman would have built up some form of immunity, and only insult if not anger the one-winged angel of death for using the same thing twice. Well, Sephiroth's scent is here in this town, but it's mostly mild at best, and far off. Like someone with him has been here, said Kiba, as he along with Akamaru were sniffing the ground, and knew they had some general idea of where to look. What about the other scent? Can you lock onto it and determine who it belongs to? Said Kakashi, as he could summon his own team of dogs to lock onto the scent, and help catch Sephiroth's allies. It's feminine, but it's not that Haku girl, and there is a smell of hair dye in the mix, said Kiba, which made things all the more frustrating for him, and the rest of the team. Damn it. Wait. Hair dye? Can you focus on the specific smell of the hair dye? Said Kakashi, as he was struck by an idea, and a damn good one too. Yeah, I can. Why? Said Kiba, as he frowned at the Jounin's words, and wondered why the man wanted him to focus on just that hair dye. Chances are, the person spying on us is the same one with the dyed hair, and can be followed to Sephiroth if not captured to be interrogated on telling us his location, said Kakashi, as he heard Jiraiya's approval on the matter, and some of the other Anbu. Okay. Give me a moment. The scent is pretty strong, but it's definitely from Sephiroth's female helper, and I think she's also nearby, said Kiba, as he sniffed some more, until their target was close. Shit. I'll be caught if I don't leave now, thought Kin, as she left quietly from the shop she was in, and walked farther away from the group into an alley before heading out to a safe area where she could mask her scent. After that was done, Kin met up with Tuya, as she was the closest, and reported to her what happened in town. Swearing at their shitty luck, Tuya had Kin return to the safe house, and report to Sephiroth for further orders. Damn it. I lost the scent, said Kiba, as he sniffed around with Akamaru, and the boy pounded the ground with his fist in anger. Masking powder. Cheap stuff too, but no less effective, and easy to make if you know the basic components. This is the homemade variety if I ever smelled it, said Hana, as she had dealt with all kinds of masking scent powders before when growing up, and the potency behind various designs of the stuff. She must have been near us to overhear our conversation about Sephiroth and about the smell of the hair dye, said Kakashi, as he knew that was a possibility, but was slightly hoping it would make their intended target react, and be noticed by them. Sephiroth trained his students well. What do you want to do? I doubt she'll make an appearance again and may try to warn Sephiroth of our arrival here in Wave, said Anko, as she knew from her own experience in infiltration missions that once a cover's blown, you get out of there, and report what you know before it's too late. I'll go get us a room for the night. The rest of you spread out around town and look for anyone else that seems suspicious for us to look into tomorrow, said Jiraiya. He left to take care of the living arrangements at a hotel, and see if anyone there knew anything. With Team 10, Kiba, Guy, Yu Gao, and Anko, what's with all this secrecy? Said Yu Gao, as she didn't like hiding things from her Anbu team, and this was one of those times. Relax, Yu Gao-chan. I just brought you here to talk strategy with us. We need a plan that doesn't involve us fighting Sephiroth in order to bring him back to Konoha, said Anko, as she saw the Nico mask-wearing Anbu woman frown at her, even if no one could see it behind the Anbu mask, and smiled back. No amount of planning can help us in the event we do find this guy Anko. There are still several unknowns with Sephiroth's condition and anyone else aside from the Haku girl helping him, said Yu Gao, as she knew their powerhouse of a shinobi team could get the job done if the opposing force was small, but she didn't become captain of her Anbu squad by running into the unknown, and sighed on the way of caution. Which is why I spoke with Jiraiya-sama on this, Yu Gao-san, and he felt our team should split up from the rest to form a smaller strike force to search another side of Wave near the water for any houses there while his searches the rest near the bridge. What about my squad? Said Yu Gao, frowning behind her mask. Jiraiya-sama wants them camped out on the mainland just past the bridge there just in case Sephiroth tries to escape that way, said Guy while sensing the woman didn't like it. Hey, don't look so bummed, Yu Gao-chan. I was against the idea from the start. Knowing our luck, we encounter the Gaki, and get our asses kicked by the group with him, said Anko, since she felt they should act as a single group rather than split it into two of them. We'll look tomorrow. Jiraiya-sama had already summoned some toads to guard the ports until late tomorrow morning, and our group will take shifts from the hotel closest to the bridge, so any point of leaving is out of the question, said Neji, as he had scanned that area of the town, and found Sephiroth's chakra signature to be non-existent in the area. I just hope this doesn't come back to bite us in the ass, said Tenten, as she didn't want to fight that Haku girl since she had the means to take down Lee, and the rest of them too if push came to shove. The next day, the Toads Jiraiya-sama summoned reported no suspicious movement at the ports last night and no movement at the bridge either. There is a good chance Sephiroth is still here in Wave recovering, said Kurenai, as she brought out a map of the town they were in, and the different areas that were looked at had an X on them. These different areas here haven't been checked out yet, and there is a chance Sephiroth is hiding out in one of the old houses until he can fully recover. Considering how much poison I got into his body before the Haku girl stabbed my hand sign making hand at the time, he shouldn't be able to do much right now, so getting past whatever Sephiroth has for bodyguards is our only real problem at this point, and they should be taken down with extreme prejudice, said Jiraiya, as he saw the group nod, but saw Team 10, and even Guy looking a little troubled by that. Given what we know, I suspect Sephiroth has at least 5 bodyguards if you count the Jinan team, and Haku along with that albino I heard was named Kimimaro. He's possibly the strongest of them all, and we don't know what the man can do, so stay on your toes. Guy, I'm putting you in charge of the squad with Anko being your second in command, and to report in any additional forces should you encounter any, said Jiraiya, as he saw the Jounin nod, and head out with his team. You think they'll run into Sephiroth or his bodyguards? Said Kakashi after the group was no longer in the room to hear him. Maybe. In any case, they should get the job done, or at least weaken our enemies before we arrive to back them up. The Fire Daimyo wants Sephiroth alive for trial, and I aim to deliver. We may not get another chance like this again in capturing him, Kakashi, and I'm not going to blow it, said Jiraiya, as he saw the former Anbu captain nod, and get into his own position to search for Sephiroth. With Sephiroth, I'm sorry Sephiroth-sensei. It's because of me they know you're here in Wave Country, said Kin, as she knelt before the young swordsman, and was slightly trembling in front of him, knowing that a cruel punishment was now possibly awaiting her. She wanted to report to him yesterday, but Sephiroth had fallen into a meditative sleep to further assist in the removal of the poison, and Haku refused to let anyone interrupt his slumber. It's alright, Kin. The fact you were able to avoid being followed or captured more than makes up for it. Besides, I have no doubt they would have discovered I was here in Wave Country, and begin the process of casting a net over the area to catch me, said Sephiroth, seeing the girl happy that there would be no punishment at his hands. Thank you, Sephiroth-sensei. What should I do now? Said Kin, as she saw him frown in thought, and looked to Kimimaro to step forward. Kimimaro, inform everyone to slowly, and discreetly come back here to the house. It won't be long until we have company, said Sephiroth, seeing the albino nod and leave at once. We could still find a way to get you out of here, Sephiroth-sama. If we can acquire a boat of some kind, we can get out to sea, and head to water country, said Haku, as she knew it would be dangerous for her, but amongst the chaos there with the political strife, and the civil war going on, would be perfect for someone like Sephiroth to hide there. Seek temporary peace and quiet in a country crippled by war. How ironic and yet clever of you, Haku. You have been paying attention to the strategy lessons I've been teaching, I see, said Sephiroth, as he had spent his time in the chair imparting mental knowledge to all those around him, and further assisting in their training in that regard. I try, Sephiroth-sama, said Haku, blushing at his praise. Sephiroth-sensei, we have another problem, said Kitamura into the swordsman's own earpiece. Go ahead, Kitamura, said Sephiroth calmly, though there was a clear edge in his voice. Zaku is in trouble. He's encountered a group of Leaf Shinobi while heading to you, but had to divert from his present course, and launch an attack with his hands. There is a chance he could be captured by the enemy and interrogated by them for information, said Kitamura with worry, as Kin had been given a bingo book, and told pointed to the Leaf Shinobi in it that she saw yesterday. Who is closest to him right now? Said Sephiroth, simply knowing someone could flank the group and then flee with Zaku. Jirobo is, but he's not the fastest one of the group, and could also be captured if he's not careful, said Kitamura, as the widest man of the group was usually the one in the back of their group when fleeing, because he could easily create defensive jutsus, and weaken the enemy before escaping. It can't be helped, for that is a risk one takes when being a shinobi. Fortunately, Jirobo just needs to stall them long enough for Zaku to get away and then himself before he comes back here, said Sephiroth, as knowing it couldn't be helped that this was going to happen, and slowly rose from his chair much to Haku's protest. I'll let him know, said Kitamura simply. You are not strong enough to face them, Sephiroth-sama, said Haku, holding him so he could support himself better. I'm strong enough, said Sephiroth with his voice, leaving no room for Haku to argue with him on this matter while he used his power to manipulate his clothing to be what it was before the all-white attire. With the advanced Leaf team, damn, this kid is annoying, said Anko, as she dodges another intense sound blast from Zaku's hands, and couldn't stay in one place too long to wrap him up in her snakes. Fang over Fang, said Kiba, as he launched his attack with Akamaru, and made Zaku roll quickly to his right only to be hit by weighted foot to the face by Lee via spin kick into a tree. Hidden shadow snake hands, said Anko, as she quickly launched her snakes at Zaku, and bound him to the tree with her precious serpents. Damn it. Forgive me, Sephiroth-sensei. I tried to live up to your expectations, said Zaku, mumbled more to himself than his foes, knowing they were going to force information out of him. I don't suppose you're going to willingly tell us where we see a fine Namikaze Sephiroth, Gaki? Please do resist. I've been having a bad week and I need an excuse to unleash all my frustration on someone, said Anko, grinning in a dangerous sense that made weaker men wet themselves. Surprisingly, Zaku held his ground, and glared defiantly at her. I have nothing to say to you, said Zaku, having been taught by Sephiroth on how to speak when it comes to interrogations during the short time the swordsman was resting. When being interrogated, do not insult your interrogator, as it will only make them want to lash out at you in more painful way than necessary, and the aftermath could make you break. Be mindful what you do say, speak half-truths, but never truly lie, and skate the line in between the two known as misdirection. A lie can be a truth from a certain point of view, but only in the way one phrases it can the lie be considered a truth, and not a lie that will bring about more pain. I was hoping you would say that, said Anko, as she made her group of snakes squeeze him painful, and making him cry out slightly for a good 10 minutes before the special Jounin stopped. Just tell us where Sephiroth is and Anko-san will stop, said Guy, as he saw Anko look at him with a smile, and not one of those nice smiles either. Stop? Who said I would stop here? I can take him back to the Leaf and he can be my new boy toy. The last one is too beat up and can't handle me anymore. I need someone who had more youth and spring in his step, said Anko, while giving Zaku a look that told the boy she meant him. Anko, said Yugao, as she knew her friend was messing around, but the boy didn't know that, and while she was all for getting information, she did have to protect the dignity of the female gender too. Even if I did tell you, there is no guarantee I'd be let go, and just be carted off to your village for whatever purpose it would serve, said Zaku, feeling a slight squeeze again from the snakes. What if we made one? Said Neji, seeing the boy look at him and then scoff at such an idea. I have no guarantee you would keep it. From what I understand, the people in the Leaf just love hearing the sound of their own voice to speak the truth, and do not exactly honor agreements with others, said Zaku, seeing Neji's eyes narrow slightly before activating his Byakugan eyes. We're not like those other people in the Leaf. We'd honor it, said Tenten, seeing Yugao shake her head no at this idea. You are just an advance force. The leader of this group would, but there is nothing to stop the leader of the main group to say otherwise, and back out of the deal, said Zaku, seeing the higher-ranked shinobi of the group frowning at that, since it was true. Guy was the leader of this group, but only because Jiraiya made him one, and even then the Sannin had final say on all matters unless reporting to the Hokage. Any possible deal Guy made right now could and would be overruled by Jiraiya before they took Zaku back to the Leaf for execution for protecting a wanted man. Sephiroth-sama taught you well, said Lee, seeing Zaku look at him now while the others turned too at hearing Sephiroth's name being spoken with such respect. Better than Orochimaru team ever did. Sephiroth-sensei knew the Sannin was going to throw us away during the Chunin exams for his own purposes and took measures to prevent our demise, said Zaku, seeing Anko raise an eyebrow at that and saw the surprise on the faces of the others. The same is said for me too. After my fight with Sabaku no Gara, I was told my life as a shinobi was no longer possible, and yet Sephiroth-sama came to me before using his power to heal my wounds. He told me that my battle with the Kazekage's youngest was one of the most impressive he's seen in our generation, and to see me unable to do it again was unthinkable in his eyes, said Lee, as he could tell the group was surprised by this, and wondered why he was mentioning this now. So you are among the rare few who actually respects my sensei. How unfortunate it is we are on opposite sides of the fence when it comes to this matter. Still, I cannot reveal to you his location, and I would rather die than betray Sephiroth-sensei, said Zaku, as he saw Lee frown with sadness in his eyes, and look away while Yugao brought out her sword. If that's how you feel, said Yugao, as she was about to perform the deed, and send a message to anyone else helping Sephiroth. Earth style, earth shaking palm jutsu, said Jirobo, as he slammed his hands to the ground, and kicked up rubble with rocks, hitting the group unexpectedly, making Anko break concentration with her snake to let go of Zaku. Jirobo, said Zaku, getting off the ground and getting away from the leaf shinobi. Go back to the house. Sephiroth-sama needs you there, said Jirobo, as he saw the leaf shinobi trying to get off the ground before he took off with Zaku, and hoped they could lose them through the dense forest. Decapitating air wave, said Zaku, as he blasted the ground where the leaf shinobi were, and sent them flying into a bunch of trees. Without looking back, the two headed for the safe house, which would no longer be safe, and prepare for a last stand against the leaf. Sometime later, he's in there? Said Yugao, as she saw Neji using his eyes to scan the inside of the house after Kiba tracked their scent here, and had already reported to Jiraiya about the location. Yes. Sephiroth's chakra is coating the entire second floor of the house, but he's there, and I'm counting 9 additional chakra signatures inside with him, said Neji, as he was not expecting so many, and wondered who else was with the swordsman. Could be those 4 that were with him after barrier went down. They put up that barrier around Orochimaru and Tsunade-sama before leaving with Sephiroth-san after getting poisoned by Jiraiya-sama, said Guy, seeing the group nod. Things just became more difficult. If those 4 were with Orochimaru, then they must be strong, and won't go down without a fight, said Kiba, knowing those 4 must have a lot of power if they were entrusted with protecting Orochimaru during the invasion. All the more reason to take them down now. Jiraiya's team will be here in moments, said Yugao, as she got her sword ready, and knew this would be it. Yosh, Tenten, Neji, and Lee will handle the 3 Junin from the Chunin exams. Kiba with Akamaru will fight Haku, and I will fight the Kimimaro character, said Guy, seeing the group nod while Anko had a smile on her face that told everyone she felt like the lucky one on this mission. And the sexy angel boy is mine, said Anko, with everyone's sweat dropping. Don't forget me, Anko, said Yugao, looking at the special Jounin while ignoring her friend's antics. Oh, Yugao-chan. I didn't know you wanted some of him too. What's wrong with Hayate-kun? Does he not have enough stamina due to his lungs? Said Anko, making the Anbu woman blush and making those around them do the same. It's not like that, Anko. Stop being a pervert, said Yugao, seeing the special Jounin now giggling at the fact she got under her skin. Inside the house, the group of leaf nins that Zaku encountered is finally here. The rest of them will be joining them shortly, said Dosu, using his manipulation of sound to help overhear the conversation outside. We could take them, but we'd be overrun before long, and then subdued if not killed before they went after Sephiroth-sama, said Kitamaru, as he looked from his position to the second floor of the house where Sephiroth was, and knew Haku along with Kimimaro would be the swordsman's last line of defense. So what the fuck should we do? I don't feel like giving up to a bunch of cocksuckers anytime soon, said Tuya, as she hated waiting, and hated being in situation where she was screwed no matter. We make our stand against them. Kimimaro and Haku are the strongest of us. They can get him out of here should we fail, said Kitamaru, seeing the others nod in agreement. Did you ever think we'd go down this way, brother? Said Sakan to his brother Ukon on his head. No, but it's the only way I can think we should, said Ukon, as he saw his brother nod his head, and looked out the window before they all went outside, forming a line in front of the house. You can come out now. We know you're there, said Jirobo, as he saw the entire group from Jiraiya to Inuzuka Kiba come out, and face them. We'll only offer you this once. Step aside and let us take Namikaze Sephiroth from here. You don't owe him anything, said Kakashi, seeing each pair of eyes from the group in front of him hardening considerably. How about you go fuck yourself and the gay old man next to you, said Tuya angrily at the former Anbu captain. How can you throw away your lives for someone like him? Said Kurenai, as she them preparing to fight, and it was clear no form of reasoning could convince them to stand aside. How can we not? Said Dosu, countered, ready to bring pain to his enemies. Judging from the fact Sephiroth isn't here, I take it he's still incapacitated, and unable to defend himself, said Jiraiya with a hint of pride in his voice over what he did to the one-winged angel of death. He's more active than you know, said Jirobo cryptically, making the Sannin frown. Take them down, said Jiraiya with his voice leaving no room to argue. And just like that, the two forces clashed, and neither side wanting to lose to the other. They're fighting outside, said Haku, as the sound of explosions was heard, steel meeting steel, and the cries of battle echoing loudly into the sky. And not a moment too soon. I just hope Sephiroth will forgive you for putting him in a false death state so he wouldn't fight anyone outside, said Kimimaro, as he was holding their master in his arms, and ready to leave when Haku was the moment the battle could no longer be kept outside. I will accept any punishment he wishes to give for my actions, said Haku, as she once more felt a shiver run up her spine at the realization that Sephiroth would not be so merciful upon learning about this, and no doubt be shunned for this act. A smash of glass from below was the signal for the two to leave with Sephiroth, as he along with Anko smashed through the window of the room, and ran with all the power they could put into their legs to get away from the fighting. They heard one of the Leaf Shinobi call out that the two were making their escape with Sephiroth and to cut off their escape route. "We must make it to the northern port of Wave. It's our only chance," said Kimimaro, as he dodged the kunai thrown at him by Kakashi, and the kick from Guy after the man gave a shout of dynamic entry. Moments before throwing a kunai. "At this rate, we will be caught before reaching the port, and Sephiroth-sama will not awaken for at least another hour," said Haku, as she threw some senbone needles back at their pursuers, and noted she was able to take down some of the Anbu in the group after the needles hit their necks. "Take him," said Kimimaro before throwing Sephiroth to her and turned around to face the Leaf Shinobi. "You can't. Your illness is nearly cured. What good was my treatments if you throw your life away now?" said Haku after catching their master, as she saw Kimimaro look back and smile at her. "It is because of your treatments, I can fight to my fullest, and protect Sephiroth-sama with all my being." "Now go," said Kimimaro, as he saw Haku rush off while the Kaguya summoned a bone whip using his spinal column, and made a spear with his left hand. "I will ask this once of you from one honorable warrior to the next. Please move aside, Kimimaro-san," said Guy along with Kakashi with his Sharingan out were ready for a fight. "I cannot. It is because of Sephiroth-sama, I am allowed to live this long, and become stronger than I have in months due to my disease. I owe him my life and I will repay my debt in full by giving my life to see to it his last," said Kimimaro, as he used the whip on Kakashi, and threw the spear at Guy. Both dodged the weapons and attacked Kimimaro from the side. The albino dropped the weapon in his right hand, as he resorted to going for fighting via taijutsu, and held his own against the two jounin for a time. He was able to knock them both back, but after that happened, Kimimaro was ambushed by Hyuga Neji hitting him several times with his gentle fist taijutsu, and was then bombarded by different weapons by the bun-haired girl he knew sounded like a number said twice. Now here Kimimaro was before the group of gathered Leaf Shinobi. He was bruised, bloody, and several of his chakra points were temporarily cut off. Still, he wouldn't give up so easily that they could pursue his master, and condemn Sephiroth-sama to a farce of a trial before a public execution. "You are beaten. Give up now and we can take you back to Konoha to start a new life," said Neji, as he saw the albino grin, and the blood flowing down the side of his mouth. "The only way you are getting to Sephiroth-sama is by walking over my dead body and will not die easily," said Kimimaro, as he charged forward battling Neji, Kakashi, and Guy with all the fury his body possessed. Such fury. Such passion. Just like the others we've defeated and captured, thought Guy, as each of the three Genin, and the former Sound 4 had left their own marks on the group before being defeated. Unfortunately, despite his best efforts, the albino Kaguya could not win the battle against the three, even after kicking Neji right in the face knocking the Hyuga out, and defeated Kimimaro after Guy put the man in a sleeper hold to knock him out. "Sephiroth-sama, forgive me. I was not worthy of your mercy," said Kimimaro in a whisper before collapsing into unconsciousness, and even then his body moved to fight for him. "You are worthy, Kimimaro-san. We won't let you die here," said Guy in a whispered voice while Kakashi and Jiraiya rushed past them to go after Haku. With Haku and Sephiroth, Haku got on the docked boat, kicking the fisherman on the boat off of it, and putting Sephiroth down quickly below deck. After hiding her master below, she headed up to the surface of the boat, and began to sail away from the port while thanking Kami that the wind was in her favor. Turning around to look past the aft of the ship, Haku saw Jiraiya of the Sannin, Sharingan Kakashi, and some Anbu looking on from their position at the harbor. They used water walking to continue the pursuit, but they forgot one simple, and crucial phase about Haku in regards to water. Her bloodline limit allowed for the manipulation of water and turning it into ice if she so desired. And she desired it right now. Haku desired making water rise up and become ice spikes like she had when her father had come with a mob to kill her. All those around her, who wished to serve Sephiroth, had been taken away, and those responsible didn't seem to care about the lives they took in the process. It was unfair. How many times would she have to sit by and watch all those that cared for her Sephiroth-sama fall? No more. Now it was their turn to take some losses of their own. "Ice style, ice spikes jutsu," said Haku, as she unleashed all her rage at these fools, and could no longer hold back the anger that had reached the boiling point in her mind. And she expressed that through the jutsu she hadn't used in nearly a decade, with the Anbu on the water now paying the price for their own sins against Sephiroth. Jiraiya and Kakashi managed to dodge the attack, though the horror behind it did turn their heads long enough for Haku to attack them again with another ice jutsu. An ice jutsu that under normal circumstance shot thousands upon thousands of needles made of ice high into the air before falling, and with the vast volume of water now around her would allow for the hitting of targets, were shooting millions upon millions of needles that descended upon the leaf shinobi. That slowed them down, painfully. As the two leaf shinobi struggled to stay afloat, a cruise ship sailed in between the gap, and created an intense wave that sent them flying back. The rest of the group that could make it, like Tenten, Kiba, Hana, and Yugao, rushed past the two before boarding the boat Haku was on. Only to find she wasn't on it, and neither was Sephiroth. They had hitched a ride on the much larger ship charted to its destination, which at the moment was unknown to Haku, but in all honesty, she could handle it, and just needed time to have Sephiroth recover. Something the leaf would and could not come to pass, knowing it would spell doom for them. "Can we still track them?" said Kiba, as he saw the massive ship now off in the distance, and impossible to hunt down given their exhausted condition. "No. The ship is too far away. By the time we locate where it's docked, I doubt Sephiroth will be on it, and even if he is, his health will be back to normal," said Jiraiya gravely with a sigh before looking at the dead Anbu skewered by large spikes of ice thanks to Haku with their blood staining the water. "What about his followers?" said Kakashi, as he knew Anko and Ibiki could have a go at them for information before imprisonment. "They're all alive. Beaten up pretty badly, but all of them are alive, and I'm impressed with their abilities. Some of the Anbu from Yugao's team are severely injured, and that's not an easy task to accomplish. Anko has some bruised ribs, but nothing a few days rest can't cure, and Kurenai has a concussion with a mean bruise on her face from where that one redhead Zoni demon summons hit her," said Hana, as she had Guy watching over them now with Lee, and hoped the two didn't go into one of their youthful tirades. "Not to mention the dead group of Anbu I have here. That in itself is a heavy price to pay. The councils will want the Hokage to make sure all of Sephiroth's followers pay it for him," said Jiraiya, as they headed back to land, and with the rest of the group. "They're not afraid to do so. I haven't seen loyalty like that for someone in a long time," said Kakashi, as he had seen some cases during the last war, and were respected for it. "Same here. Now we need to get back to the Leaf and make our report to the Hokage," said Jiraiya, as he wasn't really looking forward to that, and even less to the council, since it was clear they would be disappointed in finding out the team failed to capture Sephiroth in his weakened condition. Jiraiya could only hope they would be able to use Sephiroth's loyal followers to give them some kind of edge against him in the future. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.